What's up everyone? In this video, third principle, we will look at how to make your habits easier. And here, it's all about getting that reward. So for the response phase here, we'll try to make it easy. When you think about making your habits easier, it's all about taking action. It's all about starting the behavior. So how many of you love to spend time planning? I'm one of those people. And don't get me wrong, planning is important. But we oftentimes fall into the trap that planning is doing. Planning is doing. That's a trap. We feel like we are doing something. We feel like we're progressing because we're working on that plan, right? But actually, we haven't taken any steps or any actions yet. We're just planning, we're just preparing, and for our brain, it gives us a feeling that we are actually achieving something. But that's not really the case. So here, we will really focus on making sure you take actions, making sure that you don't stay in the planning phase and that you actually take some steps or actions forward. So first principle, the 2-minute rule. So you want to downscale your habits until they can be done in 2 minutes or less. So that means reading a book every night before bed becomes reading 1 page. That's easy. Going out for a 3K run becomes tying down your shoes, tying down your running shoes. That's easy. Studying for poker becomes sitting down and reviewing one hand. Again, easy. Of course, you can't expect the same returns as if you would have dedicated 30 minutes to the activity. However, you started it. It's actually much better than not doing it at all. And most likely what happens, or what might happen, is that you will feel inspired or motivated to continue. Let's say you sit down, you review one hand, you figure out something. Maybe you want to review a second hand, and then next thing you know, you've been spending 30 minutes trying to understand and improve on your game. So the hardest part about behaviors and habits is getting started, getting in motion. So typically how we're trying to do this is by reducing the friction to start a new behavior by lowering our expectation. Lowering our expectations for a behavior. We're no longer expecting to run for 30 minutes or an hour. We're just asking ourselves to do 2 minutes. You're no longer asking yourself to study for an hour every day. You're just asking yourself to study for 2 minutes. Just get started. So make the first step as easy as possible so that it becomes a habit over time. Something that you will be able to repeat regularly, and it might almost become automatic. And this is what brings me actually to principle number 2, which is about repetition or practice. So to build a new habit, you need to practice it. It's funny how it rhymes. To build a new habit, you need to practice it. Repeat after me. No, I'm just kidding. So by making the first step simple and easy, using this 2-minute rule, we're practicing the habit of showing up. And this is really important because practicing the habit of showing up, it's like the more you show up, the more you start to identify with the habit, the more you become that person. You've read 1 page a day for 7 days, you're now a reader. You've studied 5 times this week, you're a student. You showed up and played poker 5 times this week, you're a poker player. Do you know what happens in your brain when you repeat the same action on and on and on? It's this thing called the strengthening of connections between neurons in your brain. And maybe you've heard of this expression, neurons that fire together wire together. That basically means that with each repetition, the neural connection improves. It becomes easier. It's something that your brain now recognizes. But you first have to start. You first have to go through the uncomfortable feeling of starting something new and feel incompetent or lost. But that's okay, that's part of the process. So this is why we try to make the behavior as easy as possible to start in the first place. And because we're talking about this principle of repetition, that reminds me of this analogy. So for people who have winter days, you might resonate with how I'm gonna explain this, but think about this moment where you used to walk down a path from point A to point B, but now it snowed or there was a snowstorm and your path is now covered in snow. So this is kind of the first time you're doing an action or a behavior. You see point A, you see point B, you know you need to walk there, but it's the first time you're taking this path. You have to create the path. You have to step into the path in order to create it. And at first it will be difficult. Every steps will be more difficult and challenging because you have to walk over that snow, tap down that snow so that it becomes a path. But over time, as you use the pad again and again, it will become firm, it will become easy, and then you can just go from point A and point B seamlessly. So this is kind of the idea here. The first time you go across a path, could be in the forest as well, everything's in the way, but as you move in that path or as you take the path more often, the branches, the leaves, they move out of the way, and then you have this clear path from point A and point B. You're much more productive, it's much more easy. But you first need to take action, you first need to do it once, and you need to repeat the behavior again and again. So that's why we're trying to make it as easy as possible to start so that you come back and do it again and again. So I guess you get the picture here. And principle number 1 and 2 here really go hand in hand. So we're trying to get you started with something that can be done in 2 minutes. And we're also trying to facilitate or put emphasis on repeating the behavior. So if it only takes 2 minutes to do something, chances are you'll repeat this behavior over time. Now, principle number 3 about making it easy. It's about optimizing your environment. So habits are easier built when they fit the flow of your life and routine. So let me give you an example of this. Let's say you want to go to the gym, but the closest gym is 30 minutes from your place. Let's take an absurd example. So the closest gym is 30 minutes from your place. What are the odds that you will do it even once? And what are the odds that you will repeat the behavior regularly? Probably close to 0. But let's say you have a chin-up bar at home and you set it up on your office's door. Now, what's the likelihood that you will stop to do some chin-ups whenever you pass through that door? Probably higher, right? So think about this. Every time you get up for a break, you can take 5-10 seconds to do 2, 3, 4, or even 5 chin-ups. And repeat that every hour of your day when you grind. And now you have some sort of workout in place. So here, optimizing your environment is about making the behavior as seamless as possible. Make it so that it does not interfere with the routine you already have in place. So what's the best way to make a habit easy to do? It's to probably change the least amount of things in your environment, in your routine, in your lifestyle, right? So if you almost keep doing the same things as you were previously doing, but then you've just added this one little piece, that might be much more easier to do than to have to completely rethink your entire schedule. So that's a big one to think about, how to optimize your environment, how to make the response to a habit compatible to your routine and lifestyle that is already in place. I'm not asking you to change your life. I'm trying to ask you to see how that fits your lifestyle. And so similar to how we want to optimize our environment around good habits, we can shape our environment so that bad habits are difficult to start or to continue. So if you want to eat healthier, don't buy candies or snacks in the first place. So it won't be in your house, it won't be in your home. Whenever you get a sugar craving, the easiest response will now be to go out and buy some. So that becomes a much bigger step than just opening the pantry and grabbing a bag of candy, for example. So another example, so if you have a tendency to open your phone and check your social media, maybe that's something that you might want to make more difficult. Maybe you will want to put all your social media apps in a folder. So you see how that's one more step to take before you get to check your social media app. And that might create just enough friction and provide just enough time for you to realize what you're doing and stop yourself from doing it. Because it's something that might have become so automatic for you that you don't realize that when you open your phone, you just check Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. But now you have one more step where you need to click on that folder. Maybe that's just the time you need to realize what you're doing and stop yourself from doing it. And an even better idea than just hiding your apps would be to hide your phone in a drawer or a place that is not easily reachable. And what's funny is I've even suggested to some players to actually log out of all their social media on their computers. So for them, it's no longer possible to simply click on their browser and open Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. They have to type in their infos to log in. And so you can see how it's much more difficult, and it becomes almost absurd to try to log in on your Instagram account while you're playing 8, 10, 12 tables. And on a similar note, I also know some people who put their alarms at the other end of their room so that it forces them to get up to close their alarm. And that's one way to make your habit of sleeping in much more difficult. You have to stand out of bed and snooze that alarm. So that's one more step in the way. So I hope here you get this picture of how we want to create habits or actions that are much more easy to do. And where I would put my focus is on starting with something that can be done in 2 minutes and repeating it as much as possible over time so that it becomes ingrained in your identity. So that's it for this video, and see you in the next one. Take care.